Hello and welcome. Talking about the future in Spanish can sometimes feel like you need a crystal ball, right? Well, I promise you, it is not about magic at all. It's actually a super simple, logical system. And in this breakdown, we are going to crack it wide open so you can start using it with total confidence.
That's right, just 3. You can forget all the confusion because there are really only 3 main ways you'll ever need to talk about what's going to happen in Spanish. And we're about to make each one of them incredibly easy to understand and, more importantly, to actually use in a conversation.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with a quick look at the 3 paths to the future. Then we'll dive deep into each one. The one you'll use every day, the going to future, the more official one, the will future, and then a really clever shortcut using the present tense. After that, I'll show you how to build a little mental decision engine to always pick the right one, and we'll wrap it all up with some pro tips to get you sounding much more like a native speaker.
Ready? Let's jump in. So, first up, just a quick overview of these 3 distinct ways to talk about what's next. But we're going to start our deep dive with the most common, the most practical one you'll use in pretty much every single conversation.
Okay, meet your new best friend, the id a plus infinitive structure. Seriously, this is the absolute king of everyday spoken Spanish. If you're talking about your plans for later today, for tomorrow, for next week, this is your go-to, 100%.
And the formula, it could not be simpler. It's basically a direct translation of going to do something in English. You just take the verb ir, that's ir, to go, conjugate it for who you're talking about, add the little word a, and then you just pop the main verb on the end in its original form. That is it. No new crazy endings to memorize.
And you can just see how natural this feels, right? Like, voy a estudiar, I'm going to study. It shows your intention. Or asking a friend, vas a venir, are you going to come? It's all about plans. This is the structure you are going to hear and use for personal plans, probably 90% of the time.
Okay, let's move on to our next tool. This is the official future tense, the one you probably think of when you hear future conjugation. But don't let that intimidate you. It's not harder, it's just used for different things. Think predictions, promises, or maybe more formal statements.
And here is the secret that makes this tense surprisingly easy. See, with most tenses, you have to chop off the end of the verb before you add a new ending. Not here. For the simple future, you keep the entire verb, like hablar, comer, vivir, and you just stick the new ending right on the back.
Now, what is so cool about this chart is how consistent it is. Look at those endings. Has, a, hemos, ran. They're the exact same for AR verbs, ER verbs, and IR verbs. It doesn't matter. So you get hablaré, comeré, viviré. It's one set of endings for every simple regular verb. It's incredibly efficient.
Of course, Spanish always has a few irregulars to keep us on our toes. But here's the cool part. Even they follow a rule. The beginning of the verb, the stem, changes a little bit. So tener becomes tender and hacer becomes har. But then they take the exact same endings we just learned. So you get tendré, harás, dirá. Once you know that little new stem, you are good to go.
So when do we actually use this thing? Well, just remember the acronym BEACH. It's for beliefs like lloverá mañana, it will rain tomorrow, distant events, assumptions, and this one is a secret weapon we're going to come back to, conjectures and hesitation or promises, like when you say, te ayudaré, I will help you.
All right, on to our third and final method, and I love this one because it's such a fantastic shortcut. In fact, you already know how to do it, you just might not know you can use it for the future.
It is this simple. For events that are on a fixed schedule, like a timetable or a calendar, you just use the simple present tense. And we do this in English all the time without even thinking about it. We don't say, the train will leave at 5. We say, the train leaves at 5. Spanish does the exact same thing. And these examples show it perfectly. El tren sale a las 5. The train leaves at 5. It's a fact, on a schedule. Mañana tengo una reunión. Tomorrow I have a meeting. It's in my calendar, it's fixed. This is for those objective, scheduled future events, not your personal plans or intentions.
Okay, so we have our 3 tools in our toolbox. The going to for plans, the will for predictions, and the present for schedules. Now, let's bring it all together and build a simple decision engine so you can pick the right one every single time without even thinking about it.
This chart just lays it all out beautifully. Look at that first row. Got a firm, personal plan? Your best choice is id a plus infinitive. How about a weather prediction? Simple future. A flight that's on a schedule?
present tense. Making a promise, back to the simple future. And notice that really interesting one in the middle, wondering about now. That is the simple future's hidden superpower, and we are going to get to that in our pro tips.
So it all just boils down to this simple little flowchart in your head. When you're in a conversation, just ask yourself these questions, in this order. First, is it on a fixed schedule? If yes, boom, use the present tense. If no, go to question 2. Is it my personal plan or intention? If yes, use ir a plus infinitive. And if the answer to both is no, then for everything else, your predictions, your guesses, your promises, you use the simple future. That's the whole process right there.
Okay, let's move into our final section and see how we can use these tools to go from just being correct to sounding really natural and fluent. These are the little details that make all the difference.
Here are the key takeaways to really level up your Spanish. First, for daily plans, don't overthink it. Ir a plus infinitive is your workhorse. Use it all the time. Second, that present guess function of the simple future, that is an absolute game changer for sounding advanced. And finally, just remember that the future tense can sometimes be used for really formal commands, like on a sign that says, no fumarás. Literally, you will not smoke.
Now, let's really lock in on this special guessing use. Imagine you hear a knock on the door. You're wondering who is there right now. A beginner might ask, ¿Quién es? But to sound more natural, you would use the future tense and ask, ¿Quién será? It perfectly captures that feeling of, I wonder who that is, or who could that possibly be?
And here is another perfect example of using the future to talk about probability in the present. If someone asks how old a person is, you can answer, tendrá unos 30 años. You're not saying he will be 30 someday. You're using the future tense to say he must be about 30 right now, or I'd guess he's around 30. Mastering this little trick will instantly elevate your Spanish.
So there you have it. 3 simple ways to talk about the future, a clear way to choose between them, and some pro tips to make it all sound amazing. The future, in Spanish, is officially unlocked. So my question for you, using that very first tense we learned, is this. ¿Qué vas a dominar después? What are you going to master next?